Welcome to our deep dive into the life of Indra Nooyi, this incredible woman.
Yeah.
She was the CEO of PepsiCo for 12 years, and, she's got this memoir out, My Life in Full.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not your typical, CEO kind of, rah-rah business book.
Right.
It's really, I don't know, it's more than that.
It is.
It's really about the challenges of balancing family and ambition. And she does it, as a woman and in a rapidly changing world. So what we're going to try to do in this deep dive is unpack some of those key insights from her journey, from growing up in India to becoming, this global business icon.
Yeah, and I think what makes Nooyi's story so compelling is that she really brings together that personal and professional narrative. It's not just a dry recounting of her business deals or, the things she achieved in her career.
Yeah.
She really talks about those cultural expectations, the societal shifts, her own personal choices that kind of, came together to kind of create the path that she took.
Absolutely. And it all begins in Madras, India. And she describes this incredibly vibrant home life. So picture this. It's called the ladies' room, with a giant swing.
Oh, wow.
Where all the women would gather.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That imagery really stuck with me when I read that. And I think it speaks to how important community and shared experience was.
Yeah.
Especially for women, right?
Yeah.
In a society that, maybe limited their roles to the domestic sphere. So this room, it sounds like this was a space for connection, support, even passing down traditions and knowledge.
And that focus on education was just central to Nooyi's upbringing. Her grandfather, Tata, was a huge influence, constantly quizzing her on vocabulary and current events.
Oh, wow.
And so it just seemed like learning was so woven into the fabric of everyday life.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because that emphasis on education, especially for girls, was pretty progressive at that time.
Right.
It was seen as a pathway to independence, to empowerment,
Yeah.
right? And that was key in a society that, sometimes didn't offer a lot of options for women.
And it's interesting because Nooyi's mother initially pushed back on her sister's decision to go to business school.
Oh, really?
She thought it wasn't proper for a young woman to live away from the family. But then her sister, she got accepted to this prestigious IIM Ahmedabad. And then all of a sudden the mother was her biggest cheerleader.
Yeah, I love that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It shows that shift, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have these evolving opportunities and expectations for women.
Yeah.
So Nooyi's family, they're rooted in tradition, but they're also really open to embracing change, especially when it comes to their daughters.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that open-mindedness, I think, really played a role in Nooyi's own journey.
Mm-hmm.
She went to a strict Catholic school, then to Madras Christian College, which was known for its academics, and then finally to the Calcutta Institute of Management. I mean, this was no walk in the park.
No, especially back then.
Especially back then.
And what I find remarkable is that she navigated those application and admission processes all by herself.
Right.
I mean, that speaks volumes about her self-reliance and just her determination. It makes you wonder how that demanding academic environment shaped her later on in life,
I think so.
In the business world, she needed to be resourceful, disciplined, think critically.
Absolutely. And then she decides she doesn't jump right into some corporate role. She takes a job as a door-to-door salesperson for a textile company.
Wow. That's quite a humbling experience, I would imagine.
Talk about a humbling experience. She went from studying complex business theories to learning the ins and outs of fabric and stitching and the art of persuasion. Can you imagine a future CEO of PepsiCo haggling with shopkeepers over thread color?
That's a great image, though. I mean, it's fascinating to think about, right?
Yeah.
Because this gave her a deep understanding of customer needs, the dynamics of the market, the importance of building relationships. It's foundational, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of knowledge you just can't get from a textbook.
And remember, she's navigating male-dominated spaces at a time when women in business were pretty rare.
Mm-hmm.
And she persevered, earning respect through her knowledge and just her tenacity.
Did she ever mention encountering gender bias?
Yeah.
In these early roles?
Oh, yeah.
How did she overcome those challenges?
She talks about skepticism and resistance, but she had this remarkable mentor, Tormund Wade.
Oh, okay.
Who saw her potential and, encouraged her to think bigger, to dream bigger.
Mm-hmm.
He even suggested that she move to the United States for greater opportunities.
It's amazing how powerful mentorship can be.
Yeah.
Especially for people who are breaking barriers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, his belief in her must have given her that extra confidence to, kind of push beyond her comfort zone.
And speaking of pushing boundaries, this is also a period where she's constantly negotiating between her burgeoning career and all of those societal expectations, right? As a single woman in India at that time, she was feeling the pressure to settle down,
to get married,
to focus on family. And it really is something that so many people can relate to, regardless of their background. It's that tension between aspirations and those cultural norms.
It makes you wonder, how have things evolved or not, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to the social structures and workplaces, have they changed enough to really support people who want to pursue both professional and personal fulfillment?
It's evident in her writing that internal conflict, you sense her drive, her ambition, but also the awareness of the sacrifices she's making.
Yeah.
She talks about the long hours, the guilt of missing family events, and just this constant struggle to find that balance.
That's age-old struggle, right?
Yeah.
To reconcile ambitions with the demands of work. But what's important, and I think Nooyi's story really speaks to this, is having a strong support system.
Yeah.
Family, friends, colleagues, people who get it.
Absolutely. And ultimately, she does find love, and she marries Raj, and they build this really strong partnership, which allows her to pursue her career while still navigating family life. But, before we get to that chapter, let's talk about her decision to move to the United States for graduate school.
Okay.
This is a pivotal moment.
It is. I mean, moving to the U.S., that's a huge turning point, a leap of faith.
Yeah.
What led her to make that decision?
Well, I think Norman Wade's encouragement really planted a seed.
Okay.
But it wasn't just about career advancement. She really craved intellectual stimulation and a chance to break free from some of those societal constraints she felt in India.
Yeah.
She was hungry for knowledge, new experiences, and a world that maybe might be more receptive to her ambition.
This desire to grow, right?
Yeah.
To push beyond your comfort zone. I think you see that a lot in successful people.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you have to take that leap of faith to truly reach your potential.
And leap she did. In 1978, at the age of 23, she packs her bags and heads to the United States and enrolls at the Yale School of Management.
Wow.
I mean, think about that. The courage and determination it must have taken to leave her family and everything she knew behind.
It's a testament to her self-belief, I think, her unwavering commitment to her dreams. This move really marks the beginning of a whole new chapter.
Right.
From the bustling streets of Madras to the, I imagine the hallowed halls of Yale.
Yeah.
And it's there where she encounters a whole new set of opportunities and challenges. So Yale, quite a change from India.
Oh, absolutely. It presented all sorts of new challenges. And I mean, she's a young, single woman in a completely new cultural landscape. This is the late 70s, remember? America was a different place back then. And for someone coming from a more traditional background, those adjustments couldn't have been easy.
Yeah, you have to wonder how those cultural differences impacted her perspective. I mean, she writes about feeling lonely, far from family, trying to adapt to American social norms. It must have been an intense period of personal growth for her, really testing her resilience and adaptability.
She definitely had to learn a whole new set of rules, from casual social interactions to the fast-paced business world. But, amidst all those challenges, she also discovered a sense of freedom, a sense of possibility. She talks about exploring new cities, connecting with people from diverse backgrounds, really broadening her horizons. I think that openness to new experiences is something that becomes a hallmark of her leadership style later on.
I can see that. That willingness to embrace the unfamiliar, to step outside her comfort zone. It probably played a big role in her success at Yale, too. I mean, she's surrounded by some of the brightest minds in business. She had to hold her own, and she did. This is where she really honed her strategic thinking, sharpened her analytical skills, and started to develop that unique approach to leadership that we see later on.
And this is also where she meets her future husband, Raj.
Oh, right.
Their relationship adds another layer to this already fascinating story. Makes you wonder, how did they navigate the demands of two ambitious careers while building a life together?
It's a question a lot of dual-career couples wrestle with, even today. Nooyi's pretty open about the challenges they faced, the compromises they had to make, the importance of mutual support, and shared values in making it work. It's worth pointing out that this kind of dynamic, it wasn't exactly the norm back then. Societal expectations often put the burden of family responsibilities on women. right? So they were definitely pushing against some of those norms.
Yeah, they had to be a real team. And especially when, right as Nooyi's starting her career, she gets hit with this devastating personal blow. Her father is diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a test of resilience.
Wow.
Juggling a high-pressure job at Boston Consulting Group with caring for a loved one, that's incredibly tough.
That must have been an incredibly trying time for her.
Yeah.
It really highlights the human side of leadership,
Yeah.
the personal struggles, the emotional toll. These are aspects we don't always see in those polished narratives of success.
It's a good reminder that even the most driven, ambitious individuals, they're still human. They have families, they experience loss, they deal with those universal challenges of balancing personal life and professional goals.
Absolutely. It's encouraging to read about the support she received from her boss at BCG, though. He gave her 6 months of paid leave to care for her father. That's huge. It speaks volumes about the importance of empathy and leadership and, building a workplace culture that values both professional excellence and personal well-being. Sadly, that kind of support, it wasn't always available to working women, even those top-tier companies.
This experience, it really had a profound impact on Nooyi. She reevaluates her priorities, and it sparks this desire to find deeper meaning in her work. She wanted to make a real difference, not just focus on the bottom line, but have a positive impact on society as a whole.
This feels like a real turning point in her story. We see a shift from ambition for the sake of achievement to a desire to align her work with her values. It's like she's looking for something more than just climbing the corporate ladder.
Exactly. And that desire for purpose, it's what leads her to PepsiCo in 1994. And this is where things start to get really interesting. She joins as Senior Vice President of Corporate Strategy and Development. Now, for those who aren't familiar with the corporate world, this role basically involves analyzing market trends, identifying growth opportunities, and developing those long-term plans for the company.
It sounds like a perfect fit for her analytical mind and her ability to see the big picture. But what's really striking is how she combined that strategic thinking with a deep understanding of consumer behavior. It's like she wasn't just crunching numbers. She was trying to understand what people wanted, even before they knew it themselves. And that's a key skill for anyone in business, but especially for someone in a leadership position. You need to be able to anticipate where the market's heading and make decisions that will position your company for success in the long run.
Yeah, you see this clearly in her push for the acquisition of Quaker Oats. It seemed like a strange fit at the time. I mean, PepsiCo, they're known for sugary drinks and salty snacks, not oatmeal and granola bars.
A lot of industry analysts were scratching their heads over that one. But Nooyi saw the potential of healthier food options. This was way back in the early 90s, long before better for you became this big marketing buzzword. She recognized that consumer preferences were shifting towards healthier choices and saw a chance for PepsiCo to be a leader in this emerging market. And you have to remember, this was a bold move, especially since PepsiCo's core products at the time were seen as, indulgences, not exactly health-focused.
Yeah, it was a bold move, and it paid off. That acquisition brought in Gatorade and Tropicana, diversifying PepsiCo's portfolio and setting the stage for future growth in the health and wellness sector. It really shows Nooyi's long-term vision and her ability to anticipate those market trends. And just to clarify for our listeners, portfolio diversification in business basically means spreading your investments, or in this case, product offerings, across different categories to reduce risk. So if one sector isn't doing so well, the others can help balance things out.
And this is where we really see her performance with purpose philosophy taking shape. She truly believed that companies could be profitable while making a positive impact on society and the environment. But the question is, was this philosophy truly embraced within PepsiCo? Or did it face resistance?
It wasn't always smooth sailing. She faced some pushback from those who saw this focus on health and sustainability as, taking away from the core business. But Nooyi was persistent. She believed that companies had a responsibility that went beyond just generating profits. She was essentially challenging that traditional shareholder-centric view of business, which prioritizes profits above all else.
That brings up some important questions about the role of corporations in society, right? Can businesses really balance the demands of shareholders with the needs of stakeholders, which include employees, consumers, the planet? Nooyi's time at PepsiCo is a fascinating case study in trying to answer that very question.
And amidst all of this, she's also dealing with the very real demands of family life. She's honest about the late-night calls, the constant travel, the guilt of missing her daughter's school events. It's a reminder that even those at the top of their game, they still face these work-life balance dilemmas.
It makes her so much more relatable.
Yeah.
It challenges that myth of the superhuman CEO who effortlessly juggles it all. She shows us that even the most successful people make sacrifices, experience setbacks, and grapple with those universal challenges of balancing ambition and personal life. And this is especially relevant for women who often face even greater pressure from society to put family first.
It's refreshing to hear that perspective. We often only see the polished public image of leaders. Nooyi's willingness to share her vulnerabilities makes her story all the more compelling. And this leads us to a major moment in her career: her appointment as CEO of PepsiCo in 2006.
This was a groundbreaking achievement. She became one of the few women to lead a Fortune 500 company, breaking glass ceilings and paving the way for other women in business. It's a powerful example of what's possible when talent, hard work, and maybe a bit of luck all come together.
And as CEO, she faced a whole new set of challenges. Leading a global corporation like PepsiCo, it's not a walk in the park. It requires strategic vision, decisiveness, and the ability to navigate complex internal and external pressures. How did her leadership style change in this role?
Well, she continued to champion her performance with purpose agenda, pushing for those sustainability initiatives, healthier product options, and a more inclusive workplace culture. But she also had to make some tough calls. Decisions that weren't always popular with everyone.
Like, for example, she led the divestiture of PepsiCo's restaurant division, which included brands like KFC and Pizza Hut. This was a strategic move to focus on the company's core beverage and snack businesses. It made sense financially, but it was a difficult decision that affected a lot of employees and franchisees.
These are the kinds of choices CEOs have to make, balancing the long-term interests of the company with the immediate needs of everyone involved. It's a delicate balancing act, and you can't always please everyone.
In Nooyi's time as CEO, it wasn't without controversy. Some critics argued that her emphasis on healthier options was hypocritical, given that PepsiCo was still selling sugary drinks and those high-fat snacks. Others questioned the impact of her sustainability initiatives, saying they were more about PR than actual change.
It's important to consider these critiques and to examine them thoughtfully. Did PepsiCo really make meaningful progress on sustainability under Nooyi's leadership? Or were those initiatives more about polishing the brand image than creating real change? It's a complicated question without easy answers.
It's true. Her legacy as CEO is a bit of a mixed bag. She guided PepsiCo through a period of significant growth and diversification, but she also faced pushback for some of her decisions and for the company's continued reliance on those products that contribute to health problems.
It reminds us that leadership, especially at the highest levels, is rarely about clear-cut successes or failures. It's about navigating complex challenges, making tough decisions, and trying to do what's best for the company and everyone involved, even when those interests clash.
And after 12 years at the helm, Nooyi retired from PepsiCo in 2018, leaving behind a complicated but certainly impactful legacy. She remains a vocal advocate for women in leadership, for corporate social responsibility, and for policies that support working families.
Her story is a testament to the power of hard work, resilience, and the importance of staying true to your values, even when things get tough.
And that's what makes My Life in Full such a fascinating read. It's not just a typical business memoir. It's a story about ambition, family, cultural identity, and those challenges of navigating a world that's constantly changing. There's so much more to discover in the book, and I really encourage our listeners to check it out for themselves.
It's a story that resonates on so many levels. Whether you're interested in business, leadership, or just the human experience, there's something in Nooyi's journey that's sure to inspire and make you think.
So we left off with Indra Nooyi stepping into this huge role as CEO of PepsiCo, a real trailblazer.
Yeah.
It was 2006.
Right. A woman leading a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
Not something you saw every day back then.
Definitely not. And the world was watching, you know. She had this performance with purpose vision, but now she had to make it a reality. This wasn't just about talking the talk anymore. It was about walking the walk, leading a global giant, making decisions that affected thousands of employees, millions of customers, not to mention the bottom line.
That's where the rubber meets the road,
Okay,
right? It's
yeah.
one thing to have a vision, it's another to actually implement it,
Right.
to balance all those competing interests and get results.
Absolutely. And one of her first moves was to continue diversifying PepsiCo's portfolio. Remember, she had already pushed for the Quaker Oats acquisition, but she kept going,
Right.
moving the company away from that traditional soda and chips image.
This wasn't just about following a trend, like jumping on the health food bandwagon. Nooyi was looking ahead, trying to figure out what consumers would want down the line. She invested in research and development, expanded into new areas like bottled water, functional beverages, even thought about partnerships with companies outside of the food and beverage industry.
It was a pretty forward-thinking approach, and it required a real shift in mindset within PepsiCo. Some people saw these moves as a distraction from the core business. Others wondered if a company known for sugary drinks could really embrace a healthy image.
You often see that kind of tension in big companies. Change can be tough. Not everyone's on board with a new direction, especially when it challenges those old assumptions about what the company is all about.
Nooyi had to navigate all of that internal stuff while also dealing with pressure from the outside. Remember, this is a time when people were really starting to scrutinize the food and beverage industry, their role in health problems like obesity and diabetes. Activists were pushing for more regulation, and consumers were getting more careful about what they bought.
It put Nooyi in a tricky spot. On the one hand, she was advocating for healthier options within PepsiCo. But the company was also getting criticized for producing products that contributed to those very health concerns.
All right.
Makes you wonder, can a company really do good while still making money from things that have negative consequences?
It's a question a lot of companies wrestle with. Corporate social responsibility versus profits. It's complicated.
Yeah, and don't forget, Nooyi was working within a system, capitalism, where making money is the priority.
Yeah.
So how much could she really push back against that system while still doing her job as CEO?
Good point. It's easy to judge from the outside, but leading a company like PepsiCo means making tough choices within those limits. And she did make some tough choices. Maybe the biggest one was selling off PepsiCo's restaurant division. KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, all gone.
Whoa, that was a big move. It surprised a lot of people.
It was. They saw it as a way to streamline the company, focus more on the drinks and snacks. And it showed that they were serious about moving away from fast food, which had a pretty bad reputation for being unhealthy.
Right.
But that decision had consequences too. Jobs were lost, and it impacted those franchise owners, the people who had built businesses around those brands.
It shows you how big those CEO decisions can be.
Yeah.
How even choices made with good intentions can have ripple effects that you don't always expect.
It's a reminder that leadership isn't just about vision and strategy. It's about making hard choices and understanding that those choices affect real people. So Nooyi's time as CEO, it had its ups and downs. There was growth and innovation, but she was also criticized for the company's continued reliance on products that weren't exactly healthy.
Yeah, it's a mixed legacy. She broke barriers, championed important causes, but she was also working within a system that doesn't always make it easy to put social good ahead of profits.
Right. In the end, her story shows us that leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about navigating complexity, making those difficult calls, and trying to do the right thing within the system you're in.
And the fact that she's so open about her experiences, the good and the bad, it's really valuable. It gives us a lot to think about, especially if we want to lead with purpose and make a difference in a world that's always changing.
Her book, My Life in Full, it's a peek inside the mind of a remarkable leader. Someone who defied expectations, challenged the status quo, and left a real mark on the business world. It's inspiring and thought-provoking, and I definitely recommend it to our listeners.
It's a reminder that even in the corporate world, we can choose to lead with our values, try to make things better, and most importantly, be true to ourselves.
And who knows, maybe the deep dive will have to try some live music next time, in honor of Nooyi's rock band days. But until then, keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep striving for a life in full.